Ultra rare cards are some of the best in the game, and when you put them all together, you get something like this. Or like this. In short, unplayable garbage. But that didn't stop me from queuing into the King of Games ladder to see if I could take home a victory. And this wasn't the only challenge. Stay tuned, as every replay in this video features an entirely new deck I guarantee you've never seen before. Alright, so to get started, we have what inspired the challenges. I accidentally queued into rank with my farming deck, featuring exclusively glossy cards. This has a ton of random high-level monsters in it with no intended synergy. It's just there for the duel assessment points. I start off on turn 1 by bringing out Dianketo because it has an ability that lets me discard a card and lower my hand size. My opponent sets 4 and passes, so I decide to go ahead and bring out my Noodle Ninja. Then Dragonite is going to help me clear out the opposing board. I take out a Blue Falcon Tengu, conferring my opponent is on the Blue Falcon Formation skill. They go ahead and summon out some attack position monsters, a clear sign that they have a tribute summonable monster. Dragius comes in and takes out 2 of my monsters. However, it is not able to clear my Dianketo. You can also see that the opponent has 2 cards left in hand, implying that they might be at 2 high-level monsters. I recognize that they have a good chance of eventually bricking, so I bring out my Volt Condor and take out Dragius. They pass the turn, I pass the turn, and then they bring out a couple of 1 tribute monsters in order to help clear out their hand. But you can still see it, 2 cards in hand. They pass turn again, and I draw into a Dark Magician, which is enough to get over the summoned skull at the cost of my own field. I end up deciding it's worth the trade, and it pays off. Nicholas passes the turn to me, and I am able to finish out the game. I normal summon some monsters, and we swing in. So here it is, the UR only deck. It only has 11 low-level monsters, and our opening hand reflects it. Luckily, we draw into Seahorse Carrier, so we're able to play the game. I bring out Dark Magician Girl, set 2, and swing into one of their monsters. It's not a great start, but it's something. They bring out a monster, use the effect to recycle their Kanan, and then ultimately tribute it off for a Fire Guardian before swinging in with all 3 of their monsters to inflict some pretty serious damage. I'm going to need to draw multiple low-level monsters to stay in the game, and we get super lucky and do just that. With 3 low levels and 7 rows of Magician, my plan is simple. If I can draw another low level off of Bonded Bowing, I can actually make a double boss monster board. I do draw into it, but my opponent concedes. This took over an hour. I lost so many games, but even if they didn't concede, I think I would have won eventually. Yami Ruler plus 7's Road Magician during a lock is going to be crazy, and if I drew into a Pierce, the game would be over. So if we did URs only, I figured we also had to do SRs only, and this deck is actually way better. We get access to both Phantom Bind and Severing Psychic Wall, alongside enough low-level monsters that we're able to put up a fight. This one only took around 3 to 5 games to get our win in. Our opponent brings out some low-level monsters, looks like they're bricking on low levels, and that's good enough for me. Phantom Bind lets me take out one of their Dragorites, and now if we draw any boss monsters on the next turn, we're going to be able to beat over that board. I do suspect they have a Dragonic Pressure set though, so I don't think it's over just yet. I go ahead and tribute out a couple of different boss monsters and swing in, clearing out the 2 low levels that they have. Kime Ruler and Sai Sage Bouncer are both going to be 2,500 walls to come over thanks to the Severing Psychic Wall. My opponent brings out a Triad Drago alongside a couple of other monsters before trading off for Dragonic Slayer. However, they really overextend, forcing themselves to draw a card off of Triad Drago to compete. Instead, they did not, so they just scoop it up, knowing that keeping a 300 attack and 0 attack monster on the board is way too punishing. I know it's a bit weird that both of these games ended in quick surrenders, but my opponent in this one was actually on a 5-win streak and was using the deck I consider to be the best in the game, so I'm very happy with the win. Rounding things out is a Highlander deck where I'm only allowed to run 1 copy of each card. There are a couple of other challenges that didn't make it into the video, so make sure to check out the streams if you want to get in on the action next time. I start with a set 3 pass, and my opponent is on Noodle Ninjas. With Noodle Art Boost, they're going to be able to take out 2 of my monsters no problem. However, they do leave 1 on the field, so I am ready to respond with a Dragonic Slayer and get over that Noodle Ninja. I have Thunder the Thunder, and I bring out a full board. I don't need to use the effect to lower anything's attack, so I go ahead and set that Pierce for later. I take out both Noodle Ninjas and get in for 1300. I pass over to my opponent, and let's see what they do. Looks like they have to just set 2 monsters, but they immediately then Tribute Summon out Spice the Elite Noodle Ninja and another Noodle Ninja to go alongside it. However, kind of like the Psychic deck, even though you're buffing up these monsters during your turn, that is an 800 attack point monster once it comes back to me. And that means I'm going to be able to deal huge damage to my opponent for keeping these weak monsters on board. I use Piercing Dragon Bunker Strike to unbrick my hand a little bit and bring out a couple of monsters. I could have summoned the Yami Ruler here, but I decided to keep 3 monsters on board for the bonus damage. Additionally, having the Yami Ruler means if I get their life points low enough, I can force them to set some monsters for a turn and then use Piercing to finish the game. My opponent here has Folder Blitz and is able to use the effect to inflict 1500 points of burn damage. This is also enough for them to get over my 2 most threatening monsters. All I have going into this turn is my Wolf Fang. I go ahead and draw for turn, and I end up pulling a Dragius. That is probably the best card I could get, and with my Piercing available, all I need to do is swing into Folder Blitz, and that is game.